Hey, what's going on? This is Ricardo of the Code 7 Podcast Network, and we are about to get started with, I almost said open mic. Wrong show. That's how this week has been going, man, already, and last week. All kinds of craziness. But we are about to get started with round 36 of the DRT, the Dispatchers Roundtable. But as always, a word from our sponsors.
At InDigital, we know the public safety professionals hold themselves to a high standard. In fact, standard doesn't do it justice. In over 25 years working alongside you, carrying millions of calls over our IP networks, your dedication has inspired us. That's why our ESI net goes beyond industry standards, not only I3 compliant, but designed to adapt to future development for a network you can count on when it matters most. Learn more at indigital.net.
Carbine, it's multimedia. You can get text, translate to whatever language, getting away with the legacy equipment and going into a cloud-based solution.
It's the first time in U.S. history that we have an EZNet through cloud-native call handling.
As a police officer, to have the victim go video, that's unheard of.
You're getting upgrades every month, not every year.
To schedule your free Carbine demo, please visit carbine.com/WTT.
If Within the Trenches has ever taught you something, open your eyes to what it is like to be a 911 dispatcher, or has inspired you to become one, then help support us and join our Patreon. Get exclusive bonus content, one-of-a-kind swag, discounts on merchandise, ad-free early access to new episodes, and much more. To join, please visit patreon.com/WTT podcast. And if you're an industry partner, we have something for you as well. And now, for the show.
This is Jordan, and you're listening to the Code 7 Podcast Network.
Warning. This episode contains the 3 A's of podcasting: adult content, adult language, and awesomeness. You've been warned.
Oh, yeah. Welcome back. The Dispatchers Roundtable, round 36. We're about to get started here. And I've got a new setup over here. So I don't have the DRT jingle in there. But you had all the other stuff going on already. So that is all good. 2023, we'll end up getting that in there. There's just been a lot of stuff going on. But I'm excited to be here with all of you. This is going to be fun. And this live broadcast is sponsored by InDigital as well as Carbine. And this is actually going to be the last broadcast that I'll have Carbine on as a sponsor. We have decided to go our separate ways for 2023, but it has been all good, and I thank you very much, Carbine, for being a sponsor for the last couple of years. I appreciate it, and keep doing what you do. It has been awesome. Thank you so very much. Big shout out to patrons as always, and also Facebook subscribers. So we've got both of those going on now. You can check out both of those. I'll talk a little bit about that at the end of the broadcast, but it has been an excellent year. It has been so good, and it has gone really fast. I don't know about you, but it has gone hella fast, and it's just going to get even better going into 2023. We're about to hit that 2 million download milestone, and we're heading over 60 countries for the flagship show Within the Trenches podcast, and also for January 2023, it's going to be the 10-year anniversary of Within the Trenches podcast. The very first version of everything started in 2010 as a college project, and it has evolved and grown, and so many things have happened. Thank you all so very much for the continued support over the years, and get ready, because there's a lot of cool shit that's coming, and it's going to be a lot of fun. Just like this conversation, something that a lot of people have been working on, and there's just been a lot that has been going on with reclassification. I'm so happy to have my panelists with me here today, but especially for James to be coming on and kind of telling his story as well, the work that he has been doing, and it is going to be good. So thank you all for joining us. Please make sure to share this broadcast to your page or your favorite dispatch page on social media, wherever it is. Please make sure to do that. Throw in some reactions. It is always good to have all of that. And if you have any questions questions, any comments, anything, please throw them there and we will address them as they come along. But this is going to be a laid back conversation. Again, the topic is going to be reclassification. So we're going to go ahead and get started. I do want to say hello to Rebecca here and Dan. Happy holidays to the both of you and welcome. And also, roll call. Where are you watching from? And is this your first time for the DRT? This is round 36, and I'm going to bring on my guests here. So my first guest here is Barry, and he is a public safety executive, consultant, trainer, and author.
Happy holidays, and hello to you, Ricardo. Thanks for allowing me the opportunity to be here.
Of course, yes. Happy holidays to you as well, and welcome. This is going to be an excellent conversation. When James had sent me the information on the panelists that were going to be coming on, I got excited, started doing even more research and everything, and it is going to be awesome. So this is going to be good. Welcome. Thank you for being on. And then let's see, Rebecca here says slowly thawing out in Wisconsin. Yes, if you are in the Midwest or in the East and you were hit by that weather, I'm sorry, but I'm there with you because I'm in Indiana.
Well, we are still thawing out here in North Carolina, where we actually had single digits at one point.
Oh, man. Yeah, so there was a couple, just a few days ago, it was so cold. It was negative 37. So it was, okay, hold on. Let me go back. It was 9 degrees. However, the feels like was negative 37. And I had gone outside with my gloves on. I was only out there for a few minutes and my hands were already hurting. I was like, yep, it's time to go back inside. Yeah. Not good.
It's been several years since I've been active in the fire service, so I really appreciate the opportunity to sit inside and watch the engines go by in weather like this.
That's hilarious. No, you're right. Yeah, it's nice, right? Let me bring on our next panelist here, and his name is Drew, and he is a law enforcement consultant as well as content creator.
Hey, how's it going, Ricardo? Hey, Barry. Happy holidays, everybody.
Yes, welcome, man. Happy holidays to you as well. Where are you out of? Did you get hit by any of this craziness?
No, I dodged it. I'm, excuse me, I'm in Florida, in sunny Florida, and that's where I spent most of my career. But we've hit 40s and 50s here, so obviously, I think the pipes would freeze at that point because it is Florida. But I have relatives. I was born and raised in Western New York, and everybody's impacted by the blizzard that occurred up there. And I just hope for the best for the first responders, and especially to the 911 operators, telecommunicators who had to listen to some of the horrific things they had to hear.
Oh, for sure. Yes, the lot of stuff going on, but also I'm jealous that you were in Florida. My family is in Florida. However, they drove to Indiana for the holidays, so that was a little different for them. yeah, exactly. Our final panelist here, last but not least, is the James Lockerbie, RPL 911 professional out of New Jersey.
Hey, everybody.
Hello.
Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. Exactly.
Right back at you, man. I'm glad to see you on here. I will say, like, right before we got started, it was funny. He was walking around with the phone and stuff. He's like, I can't hear you guys. Like, we can hear you, dude.
Sit behind a computer for 12 hours at least every day, and I don't know how they work.
Oh, it happens, right? The eyes go cross-eyed and everything, and we got to try to relearn everything. But I'm glad to have all of you on here, and we've got people checking in here. Homie Ryan out of SoCal, what is going on? Rebecca says we hit negative 40 at one point. Yeah, nah. No, I'm good with that. I was good being inside as well. And then Dan, South Florida, recovering from 40-degree weather, he says. Drew, are you recovering as well?
Yeah. I mean, I got a bit of the flu. I guess when it drops below 50, we all get sick, apparently. But, I mean, that's my experience.
Yeah, what can you do? I lived in Florida for almost 4 years. And that's actually where I started my dispatching career. I was in Central Florida, and I was really the only one who was walking around in that weather with still a t-shirt and shorts on. People thought I was crazy, and they're like, "You're not from around here, are you?" I was like, "No, I'm not. I'm from the Midwest.
Right.
But it was fun. It was good being there, and again, that's where I started out my career. So, glad to have all of you here and all of you as well who are watching and listening, all of you in the audience. Again, our topic today is reclassification. We've got some new information as well that we're going to share towards the end, but I want to start at the beginning. But before that, I want to have each one of my panelists here kind of give an introduction and a background of their public safety story. So, James, let's go ahead and start with you. How did you start out in public safety? Where do you come from?
All right. Well, way back when in '89, I was 14. I joined the local Explorer program. And then I transitioned into 911, and that's where I've been stuck ever since.
I do.
Not stuck. I love it. I love it.
I do like how you mentioned the year, and I don't know if anybody else noticed, but your eyes like blew up when you said 1989. like you were revealing that. Like you actually that look was, did I just say that? But that's good, man. Welcome. I'm glad that you're here, and you've been doing a lot of good stuff while being in dispatch. So thank you for everything. Let's go with Drew. What's your background here with public safety?
I started in, I started in 1992 at the Hillsborough County Sheriff's Office here in Tampa. I started as a dispatcher, and I worked that job for 2.5 years. I did all of the things that come with the job, and eventually I went out to the street, and then you fast forward 25 years later, I was a law enforcement lieutenant, and I was reassigned to run the exact same comm center that I had started in. So it was a unique experience. It was an experience where I got to fully realize that really the only thing that had changed was a little bit of the technology and some of the paint color, and really not a whole lot of that had changed either. So I really got an inside look at some of the trauma, and after maturity and later in life, I got to doing a lot of research on the trauma that 911 operators and dispatchers endure.
Excellent, man. There's a lot that goes into it, of course. That were there. So you mentioned the couple of years that you were in dispatch and everything, and you end up being the one running it later. Were there folks there that you had worked with before that now you're their boss? They're like, oh man.
Yeah. As a matter of fact, the general manager that ran it, we used to answer the non-emergency calls all the time, and we would make the contest to see who can make each other laugh based on what we're telling people. You fast forward, and it's a good thing that we were both in those positions, because those stories could die with us.
Oh yes, yeah, for sure. Yeah, there was something that we used to do on non-emergency line, of course, but and it was mostly when the officers were calling up for times and numbers or anything that they were running. But we would play the pirate game, and we would see how many times we could get an R in there. So of course, for me, right away, it's like Allegan Central. This is Ricardo. So there was one, right? So we would go and see how many we could do.
That's great.
Oh yes, it was always fun. Always a good time in dispatch. So welcome. I'm glad you're here. And then Barry, you sir, please, your background.
Yeah. Well, I am OG 911, not original gangster, but original generation 911. Nice. Folks talk about NG 911, next generation, but I started in public safety in 1970, February of 1970, and 911 only began in February of 1968, so it was all the 2 years ago old when I started. Got in it through the volunteer fire service, where my dad had joined before I did. Moved over to dispatch, served in dispatch for several years until I eventually began to go to management of that center. So I was very much in the situation that Drew's talking about. But over the years, I have been a 911 director in 4 different states, a fire officer in 3 different states, and some of those were fire and 911 were at the same time, because some of them were volunteer fire departments. So I got a dose of it from both sides. Currently doing consulting, but working as a contributing editor for Firehouse Magazine, trying to get the message out there, and still involved in a lot of public safety activities, and really, am certainly concerned and passionate about the future of telecommunicators. We talk a lot about everything that's needed to get to next generation, and talk all you want about the technology. There's no next generation 911 without next generation 911 telecommunicators.
Yeah. Mic drop right there. Well said, sir. Well said. Yeah.
Well, my mic is in my laptop, so I'm not really wanting to drop it, but we'll. But I got you.
Oh, well, that is amazing. Thank you for being here, and yeah, definitely an OG. I love that. That is awesome. Well, we're going to be getting into this here and kind of going back and forth. And again, for everyone who is watching right now, if you have any comments, you got any questions for the panelists, please make sure to throw that in the comments there, and we will go over them as well. But let's go back to about 2016, and we're gonna tell a little bit about the history here. So, there was the reclassification effort that was going on back in 2016. Seems like a long time ago. Geez, saying it that way. In 2016, and, both organizations, APCO and NENA, were both pushing for this reclassification. And, that original one first ended up, they said no. And there was still, open comments from the public that they wanted to see. There was still kind of a chance. So both organizations were they reaching out. They wanted people to be able to send in information, hard data, stories, just all protocols, policies, all different types of things to prove the difference. Also, the difference between commercial dispatchers and emergency ones. And because currently dispatch is in the clerical class, and we're trying to get into the protective class. So all of this stuff is going on, right? And people are sending stuff in. So it's just watching and watching and watching. And Rebecca here says, I remember when you announced it. It seems like yesterday. Yes, I'll get to that here in a moment, because it was a cool moment to be in DC to do that. But you've got all the support that is going on, right? People are sending in information. It didn't look like it was getting a lot of traction. So at that time, I'm in Orlando for the National APCO Conference, and I'm trying to figure out a way to raise some sort of awareness for what it is that they're doing. And I told them that I was going to do this as well. I didn't know that it was going to end up going the way it went, but what I did was I started a movement, and it was called the I Am 911 movement, hashtag I Am 911. And all I wanted to do was to share a glimpse into one of the calls that I had taken, just a quick glimpse. And it started out with, I heard your last breath the night you flipped your four-wheeler, hashtag I Am 911. So it was a meme. I put it out there, wanted other dispatchers to do it, and not to send these stories to any of their, senators or anything like that. I wanted them to send it to us, and I would put it out there. And I asked people to do the same thing, and it exploded. People were sharing and sharing and sharing, and the media got a hold of it, and everyone started figuring this out, what was going on, what we were trying to do. But then it quickly turned into peer support, where a lot of dispatchers no longer felt alone, and they also now had an outlet to be able to share some of these really hard stories. And so much came from it, but that's where we were at 2016. So James, I want to look at you here, thinking back at 2016, you seeing the reclassification effort in the beginning during that time, but also the impact of the movement as well.
Yeah, well, your memes and other work that you did brought the whole topic and the need for the reclassification, brought it to my attention. And I actually submitted a couple of my own experiences, which was a a huge help personally to myself. I had recently suffered a personal tragedy. I lost my brother unexpectedly. So you kind of gave me the permission to open up and share about my experiences at work, because like my personal life and my professional life kind of collided with my brother's situation. So again, when seeing your meme, that gave me the permission to share my stories, and then I really took the opportunity to learn more about the situation, about the whole reclassification idea, and I was like, that's it. I need to be a part of this, and that's when I started exploring as much as I could to learn more about it.
Yeah, there was a lot that ended up coming from it, and you and I, we were sharing a lot of things on Twitter as well, and it was that during that time that I ended up going to the 911 Goes to Washington conference that Nina puts on, and I met with Congresswoman Norma Torres. I had her on the podcast already about a year or so prior to that time, and I'd gotten there, and we're sitting in her chambers, and she goes, "So this is what we're going to talk about." I said, "Okay," we're getting the timing down and everything, and I remember being nervous as hell, like nervous enough to where like the sweat is going down my back, and I'm like, "Please, deodorant, hold up," because the last thing I want is to just be completely embarrassed right in front of Congresswoman Norma Torres, and also on the right are all of her staff, and we're sitting there. I'm like, "Okay, don't mess up. Like, be cool." and and at the end, she says to me, and this was right before we record. She goes, "I have an announcement that I want to break here with you for this episode, but also you are allowed to go ahead and when we're done with this, go and share it as well." So what it was the introduction to the 911 Saves Act. And when I left there, I remember going outside of the Rayburn building, and I'm standing there in front while all these people are going in and out, and I'm live on social media, shaking as I'm announcing this and thinking, I can't believe I'm doing this right now. And it everything just built up from there, and that fight continued and continued. And it was awesome. It was a cool experience, and it's been cool ever since. But I want to look over here at Barry and Drew as well on just kind of your thoughts on because you come from the same place and everything. Your thoughts on just the idea of reclassification as a whole.
I'll take it first. I think it's long overdue. And I know you were talking back to 2016 and the start of probably the latest or current round. I can take you back to 1999 and 2000 when I served on the APCO staffing task force, which was chaired by Steve Souter. And we made our first presentation at the APCO conference in Boston in 2000. And at that time, we weren't so much focused on reclassification as we were on addressing the underlying issues that exist as the cornerstone of the reclassification effort. So these things that you're still fighting for since 2016, people have been fighting for them, and maybe in a different effort, for 25 years now. I mean, that's how long and hard this battle's been.
Oh man, it has definitely been a while then.
That's exactly why Barry's the OG.
Yes. Yeah.
Well, I'm also, as they say, I've been through the BC and AD, which is the before cellular and after digital, because that was a change in this industry. It certainly helped the citizen, but I can tell you it altered the dynamics in the 911 center to the point that if you stepped in there today and you had served in the 60s, 70s, or 80s, you would not know where you were.
Oh, man. Go ahead, Drew.
Well, mine is more from a trauma perspective. I really appreciate everything that Barry has done and what he said. It's so true that the voice is minimized. It seems like whether it's cops or firefighters or what are labeled first responders, I still believe that you're the first responders, but everyone just assumes that because there's an element of danger involved in being on the scene, that makes them a first responder. But who gets the ball rolling? And from a trauma standpoint, it's just the accumulation of trauma. It's the fact that the calls keep coming in when you're still reeling from the previous call. It's the unpredictability. It's the not being able to do anything when you're hearing the screams and the yelling. And the trauma is trauma. It's the same adrenaline. It's the same heart disease. It's the same, it's the same suppression of the trauma that you're trying to break. I mean, poor James is talking about, he had the perfect storm of a personal issue hit his professional life, and finally somebody gave him permission to speak out. This is substandard. So when people think reclassification, they perhaps think, first of all, I think they already think that dispatchers are in the same class as first responders, from that standpoint. But obviously they're not, and obviously the trauma is the exact same. I mean, it's not like they're doing something for free. Nobody's trying to get over anything on anybody.
Yeah.
They're just really trying to get what's due. And if I may, I mean, we joke about OG and NG. We're still, from a trauma standpoint, stuck in the 70s or 80s. What are we going to do to train these telecommunicators to watch it, live in the next generation, even text? It's a different world, and I appreciate the advancement of the technology, but we're not keeping up with the human advancement.
Yeah, exactly. There's a lot of different conversations that we've had, especially on this one here, the Dispatchers Roundtable, talking about, texting or live video, and a lot of those services and products that are out there right now, how that's going to impact those that are using it. And the good thing is, a lot of them have come on to kind of talk about those experiences, how they use it. A lot of those videos come in blurred already, and they give them the choice to look at it. And there's not a standard, right? There's not a standard, at least not right now, but they're developing it. And I think the good thing is that a lot of the companies have people that are working for them. They come from where we come from. They come from that user standpoint, and they're able to develop that. Or with the company that I was working for before, when I was doing their texting, we would go to the people who were using it and say, how do you want to see this? How do you want to receive this? How do you want pictures to come in? Because we wanted them to be the ones to decide, and then the company would work around what they wanted. So that was a good thing there. But also then you have to look at, the different centers and everything, and what they're doing to be able to work with the trauma that comes from that.
Yeah. Ricardo, if I could just build off of something that you said and tie it back into Drew's comments, it has always annoyed me, and that's probably a mild word for the one I'm looking for, about applications, hardware, software, whatever, that were developed for 911 that people who worked in 911 had no input in. But I think more than that, going back to what you talked about, Drew, which is an internal public safety family problem, is how many times telecommunicators never get invited to after action discussions. There have been some, and I am blessed in that the agencies that I worked with understood that relationship and understood that need. But I talked to hundreds upon hundreds of telecommunicators who were like, wow, we've had a terrible multi-casualty incident or a terrible fire or whatever. And yeah, they had a debriefing, but we never got invited.
It's horrible. That drives me insane. That this is Ricardo, you encouraging people to speak out. And James, your work is so important because it's the administrators that need to hear this. They just assume that that's just a 911 center. Everything's fine up there, and they never. I don't want to say never. They don't usually take the word of the person that they put in charge, somebody they make responsible to make the people's lives better or to be their servant or whatever. And it just seems like they never take their word for it. They just kind of like do whatever they want to do. And just, like Barry says, without input from the operators, just think of how many new apps or how many new camera systems or whatever they just throw into a comm center that's already stretched thin and already has 100 alarms going off just based on the premise that, well, they're there 24/7, 365, they can monitor it. And it's just adding to the trauma and the stress that they're already enduring.
Yeah, I think one of the good things that comes out of this as well, though, is that a lot of those who are moving into upper management as admin are those who were in the chair in the beginning. They were within the trenches of 911 from the beginning, and now they're up at the top. For example, here in the comments, my good friend Roxy, she does a lot for all of her people, and she comes from where they come from and thinks about a lot of that trauma and how to work with them, but also pulling them into those debriefings. So I think one of the things, especially when I was in dispatch as well, again, it's only been 9 years, which seems like forever, but during that time, they weren't pulling us in either. The first time that they did, I'll never forget it because myself and all my coworkers, I was supervisor at the time, we're all sitting there and we're talking to everyone there. We're sharing our side. And one person from, I don't remember which fire department it was, but it was from the fire service. He says, "Why have we not ever had you here before? You're sharing a part that we have no idea about."
Right.
And from that time, they've been pulling people in at that center, but things are changing. They're definitely changing. I think the previous guard is they're
retiring.
making their way out, right? But you've got this new generation, this new guard that's coming in as well, who is really thinking about everything that we've been talking about here.
I like to say real quick, if I may, my chief of police started his career in the chair and transitioned, and I've worked with him. I was a dispatcher, he was a patrolman, and I've watched his career progress. And now he's the chief of police, and he's been very supportive of my efforts and encouraging me to continue doing what I've been doing. And he's anxiously awaiting to hear how this all turns out. And I think that is growing across the nation. I believe a lot of that old school law enforcement, just by the progression of their careers, they're retiring out. And now this new crop of chiefs of police and upper management, they all started, hey, let me go and dispatch, get the foot in the door. They got their foot in the door, and then they transitioned into law enforcement, and here they are. And so I think they have a lot better appreciation and understanding of our careers, because that's where they started at. And I'm also noticing a trend in the better direction as far as dispatchers being included in debriefings. Not necessarily after action. I think that would be great too, but definitely in the debriefing section. I think that our message, and Ricardo, all your work, I think it's starting to show dividends, and now dispatchers are being more included in the debriefings and the critical incident stress management meetings.
I think that's why conversations like this are so important, but also within each center to be able to have everyone working together to do sit-alongs so that everyone gets to see what it is like on either end. The more that we understand each other, the more we'll be able to work together. And the conversation will continue.
Yeah, and Ricardo, for everything that you are doing as an outreach, what has always saddened me that as professional communicators, the thing that we suck at the most is talking to each other.
Right.
We do not share information. People think, HIPAA says you can't say that. Well, wait, hold on. So, I mean, on that level, but also even within a center itself, I have seen conversations not move from one shift to another. One shift had the answer, and another shift was like, oh, this is an incredible problem. We can't fix it. If we do nothing else, we've got to learn to talk and share more, because there are people
we have
who
a failure to communicate in the communication center.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, James, people don't, I'll use the term, don't know any better, that they deserve, as part of the team, to be at that debriefing, deserve to be part of the planning that goes into setting up procedures. I mean, how many centers put a procedure in a book, leave it there, open it up the one time in 5 years when they need it, and it becomes a holy shit event? It's like, wait a minute, we can't, who's that? We can't do anything. And the phone numbers are like 6 years old. We've got to do better. If nothing else, we've got to do better talking to each other.
It's in the training also, like the training scenarios. I could tell you when I was running a comm center that their thought, the law enforcement side thought of including the comm center in training is, hey, can you monitor this special events channel for us? We're going to be out doing some active shooter training. And the reality is, where do you think all of the intel is going to be coming from? Like, they're not exercising the active shooter muscle like they should be. Every major active shooter incident, Marjorie Stoneman Douglas, Columbine, you can go to 9/11, the most recent one in Uvalde. The communications failed because the people were overwhelmed very quickly, because no one really thinks to kind of train for this kind of thing, or no one gives them the at least the latitude to see the importance and the value in training for something like that.
Yeah, I mean, it really shows the importance of telecommunicators, and it also shows why more communication has to be put towards, towards things like 911 saves and towards the reclassifications. I mean, as an industry, we've made great strides since 2016, but there are still people who, I bet good money, have no idea what 911 saves is in this industry, not on the street.
Right.
I'm talking about in this industry.
No, you're right. I would agree with that.
And again, which is why conversations like this are super important to be able to have, and to have that confidence, but also bravery to open up and share and just not be afraid. So this is good. This is excellent. And also, as you're talking about training as well, reclassification eventually, will end up leading to more training as well. More benefits and everything else that ends up coming in with it, which is so important, because not a lot of centers have the money to send their people to training. Not even just a conference, just regular trainings or whatever, or having people come in to do it. So there's a lot that comes in with this, and I want to transition over now, James, for you. So as we were talking, you mentioned how you were given permission to open up and share, but also you started researching, learning more about reclassification. You wanted to be involved, and involved you are. Very much so. There was a lot that you did. So I want to highlight your work here and the mission. So let's first talk about the work that you did just in New Jersey.
Yeah, so my big thing is social media, kind of like what you've been doing. And so I was using Twitter to get the word out on the 911 saves, and just anything that kind of came to mind to move the ball forward. And in the process, I caught the eye of the state assemblyman in New Jersey here, who happened to be my local representative in the state house. And he reached out through direct message asking me to join his efforts to reclassify, or, you can't really reclassify at the state level. That's a federal thing. It's more of like a recognition at the state level. So he had a bill to recognize dispatchers and our work as first responders. So he reached out to ask me to get involved with that, and I said yes, sir. And I was able to testify at a assembly committee hearing over the bill via Zoom because COVID had just broken out, and then the following year I was able to testify on behalf of the bill again at the Senate level, and I did that in person in Trenton, and then so January 18th, 2022, the bill was signed into law. So New Jersey joins the group of about 20 states that have laws recognizing dispatchers as first responders and providing a protective service to their communities.
And very well done indeed, man. Excellent work. And I want to show something here really quick. So this is what the map looked like, right? This is part of a presentation that James did at the New Jersey conference here about a month or so ago. He was up there, was presenting this. So this is what the map looked like in 2020. And credit to Rebecca here. Her name is up there in the upper right-hand corner, but she had developed this. You guys are part of this group on Facebook, but this is the way it looked in the beginning, right?
Yep.
And then everyone is working, right? You see the stuff on social media and different blogs that people are talking about at a conference and everything, and then a couple years later it ends up looking like this. What?
Yep. Look at that.
Yeah, very, very nice. And again, Rebecca, excellent work on the map and everything that you did here. So we've got all of this information here now. So in green, it's a first responder state. You've got purple here, county approved, awaiting legislature rather. And then this blue is bills in legislature. And then in yellow, there's PTSD legislation. And then green, a lighter green with a line through it, is resolutions of support. So from 2020 to from this to then this, a lot happened in those 2 years. A lot.
That's right.
Go ahead,
Thank
James.
you for giving Rebecca credit.
No, of course. Yes. So you've got all of this is going on, and then you also had an awesome moment here. Tell us about this.
Yeah. So they mentioned the Facebook page, and Rebecca. There's also Jim Brown of West Virginia. Those purple states there, we'd like to point out his work in West Virginia because he went county by county. He gathered up a majority of counties and then went and found a state representative to support a bill in the state house in West Virginia, and that's why they became, I believe, the second or third state to pass a law recognizing dispatchers as first responders. And through that work on the Facebook page with Rebecca and Jim, I caught the eye of someone who was close to the Congresswoman. And so not this past October, but the previous one, the year before, the Congresswoman used my contact to reach out to me and invite me down to the Capitol building for October's National Law Enforcement Prevention, the National Crime Prevention Month. And politicians, we all use any kind of opportunity that we have to promote what we're trying to get done. So as a former dispatcher, Norma Torres was multitasking here. She utilized this event for National Crime Prevention Month to also promote the 911 Saves Act, and she wanted a active communications officer to be present to help her with that. And so I got invited to come down and join her. So we were taking pictures with McGruff the Crime Dog and then with the 911 Saves Act. And as members of the House were coming down to join us for the one, we started talking to them about this.
That's awesome, man. I remember when you were getting ready to head over there, you had sent me a couple of messages, and I think you told me that you were taking a page out of my book by teasing, because people know that whenever I go to announce something or something else is coming out, there's always some sort of teasers or something that I put out there. And so you basically were telling me that you were going to be doing something really cool, but I had to wait to find out. And I started laughing after I read it. I was like, "All right, dude, I'll be watching out for it." And then I see these pictures and stuff. I was like, "Oh,
No.
very, very cool,
And
man."
I don't think my contact wants to be, put out there. So I just want to thank her for all the
Mhm.
work that she's done and making that happen. So I'm sure
Awesome.
she'll watch it. If she's not watching now, I'm sure she'll see it later.
Excellent, excellent. So you've got this that was going on and everything, but also you ended up going out to Haleyville as well.
Yeah. So anything to promote the idea of reclassification, I went out to
Mhm.
Haleyville. The mayor out there was amazing. They put that whole Southern hospitality, Haleyville, Alabama, exemplified that 10 times. I met some great people there, and they invited me to participate in the Haleyville 911 Festival Parade, which it was funny. The rental company gave me a Jeep Gladiator. It's like half Jeep, half pickup. So I took the opportunity to make the rental car into a float.
That's right.
and had a sign for the 911 Saves Act on the back. And I was the lead vehicle for the first responder cars. And then the next day on Sunday in their courthouse, I had a meeting with a state rep from Alabama, the local 911 professionals and first responders and from the police and fire were there, and I shared my message of the reclassification, what was happening in New Jersey and other states across the country, and the federal law, and I was encouraging them to start something there in Alabama, and then I left confident that they would pick up that ball and run with it, and they did. In this past June, I believe, Alabama passed a law for new dispatchers to have a basic 911 training certificate, and they put the language that 911 dispatchers are first responders inside that bill. So way to go, Alabama.
Awesome. Yes. Very well done to everyone, but especially your efforts as well, and everyone involved in doing so much. I want to look here in the comments here too, really quick, just to read a couple things here. One from a little bit earlier where let's see. Let me scroll up here really quick. Roxy says, and getting people to believe this is a profession, not just a job or a stepping stone to law enforcement or anywhere else. I think that is one of the big things too, to be able to have people to realize. But also, it starts there in that center as well. People that are developing and continuing to distribute out that idea that this isn't just a job, that it is a profession.
It
That
shouldn't
people
be
can
America's
retire from it.
best first responder job. It should be a destination.
Right. And then Roxy also says, I feel like we can't discount the states who have done the work to get their states to recognize them as first responders. I feel like that does make a difference when we come to the table at the federal level. If the states believe this is important, the feds just might give us a longer look. So love that. Oh, she also says here down at the bottom, I'm going to put this one on the screen. We are nobody's stepping stone. Damn right. I like that. Now, again, thank you for all the work that you've put into this. I want to kind of segue now into the fire and law enforcement support of this reclassification and beyond. So Barry, I want to go ahead and start with you. We kind of touched on this a little bit, right? But let's talk a little bit more into that support, because there's everything that you hear on that side, right? And I know, like, for myself specifically, I would go into dispatch and I would be on the radios, and someone would key up and say that they were in service, and I would just respond 10-4, and repeat the traffic and everything, and I would get a message from an officer just saying, as soon as I heard your voice, I knew everything was going to be okay. Like, we've got that bond, right? And it continues to build and build with those out in the field. So from your perspective on that side, the support for this reclassification and beyond.
Yeah, the support is there, and
Mhm.
I think, and probably not universally, like anything else, but there's certainly a significant amount of support there for people who I think truly understand the issue from the fire service side. And just like 911, everybody doesn't talk to everybody, and not everybody has the total grasp of the issue. But I think one thing from the 911 side of the coin is that we talk about standards, and most of the so-called standards that we live under in 911 are not really standards at all. They're pretty much just nice suggestions about the way things really should happen. For example, it's certainly not universal that if you don't answer a call within 10 seconds, the 911 cops are not going to come down and arrest you or put a fine against your center or something like that. But the way that you can talk to the fire service and the way that the fire service can help us with their standards is that the National Fire Protection Association creates standards that are really adopted by many communities across the state, and also the insurance service offices, and it depends on where you live, help regulate the fire insurance rates for that community. Well, 10% of any community's fire protection insurance rates come from points gained by the communication center. So if there's not an adequately staffed, adequately functioning communication center, that can chip into 10% of fire insurance ratings. That's something that has to be brought to the attention of the people who control our purse strings. Fire departments can help us. We can help us. The other thing from a fire service standpoint is Standard 1225, which takes up pretty much everything dispatch communications related with the fire service, has some processing time similar to what's in the NENA standards, but it also has a very interesting codicil, or part of that standard, is that a 911 center / dispatch center is supposed to be able to provide a telecommunicator for the direct monitoring of a frequency if so requested by the incident commander. So if you're managing a 911 center and you have 3 or 4 different incidents that different incident commanders in your jurisdiction ask for somebody to monitor a channel, I doubt if you can do it. I really and truly do. I mean, some people are having hard enough time picking up the phone, let alone saying, all right, this person is going to sit there at that console and do nothing but listen to everything that goes on that channel. And that's one of the ways that we've really got to educate the fire service and tell them we can't do it. We just cannot do it. I don't care how big you are, how small you are. I've seen very few, if any, centers in my travel that can afford to say, hey, you, Charlie, hey, you, Jane, this is your channel until the fire's out. It just doesn't happen that way.
If I could just add, I mean, I think that's the thing. Like that's why this reclassification is so important, because you're putting that much level of duty and responsibility on us, but then you're treating us or treating the whole the industry or whatever like secretary. They're just secretary clerks. They're just doing clerical work. Like those two things don't match up, and that's what this is all about: is getting that level of responsibility, the true responsibilities that are held against us, and then having everyone put us in that same level of respect of what our profession actually does.
I mean, the message should be this reclassification is not for us. Okay.
It's for everyone else.
It is for everyone else. It's for every first responder that we deal with. It's for every citizen that we protect.
I agree.
I want to look in the comments here really quick. Ryan says, Barry, aren't there also NFPA standards that specifically evaluate dispatch communications performance that go towards agency accreditation? It seems that also demonstrates the critical role of 911 professionals as first responders.
Well, there are standards for telecommunicators that and I can't remember the number right now, and I apologize, but there is a standard for telecommunicators under NFPA, but in terms of professionalizing the center or accrediting the center, I served on the Commission for Accreditation of Law Enforcement Agencies in writing their second revision of their 911 center communication standards. And so that is also a recognized method of accrediting 911 centers. And then again, you can take a look at courses that come from APCO, NENA, states, wherever, that have with them, or even some post courses that have law enforcement accreditation behind them. There's a lot of things out there, and I mean, God bless you. Take whatever is available to you, because when I go to or speak at any of these conferences like APCO, it really bothers me to know that there may be 5,000 people there, but that I'm talking to the tip of the iceberg. And what happens to that information after that, nobody knows.
Yeah. I was saying it ends up disappearing. But there's also again, the continuation of conversations, conferences that are specific to building those standards, right? We got one that's going to be coming up as well, and it continues to evolve. And I feel like a lot of this, especially, again, I know I keep saying it, but conversations like this that are so important is what pushes, motivates, inspires the evolution of everything that it is that we are talking about, and that those that are in it right now are experiencing. So for Drew, how about yourself? How about the law enforcement side of this, the reclassification and beyond support, all of it?
Well, excuse me. Hold on one second.
Mm-hmm.
I need support for my voice.
Yeah.
It's to me, I've always looked at root causes of problems, and you just mentioned, you're going to hear me say it over and over again. You're going to hear me talk about trauma over and over again, and I believe that is a root cause of a majority of what we're lacking in communication centers, because we can't keep people in the door. So the retention is not very high. It's tough enough to hire somebody in 2022 as it is. And then, so when you think about it, just reverting back to what I opened with, not much changed other than the paint color and the technology. What I mean by that is the citizens aren't appreciative normally, because they're probably great people, but they're calling at the worst times of their lives, and they're getting a 911 operator. The cops, from this perspective, they're not necessarily appreciative because they don't know, and they don't, I can't tell you how many times when I made lieutenant and they told me I was going to go run communications and records, all the cops, they all said the same thing. What'd you do wrong? And I was like, this is an honor for me. Like, I don't care what you think. Mm-hmm. This is a big deal to me. Because I knew I could affect some change in there, but right. It's an educational thing. So if the citizens aren't happy with the operators, and the cops aren't necessarily happy with the operators, the only thing that the telecommunicators have are each other. And as well as I do, and everybody in this chat, that there are warring factions within the four walls of that communication center. So this is based in trauma. There's a mistrust that comes from PTSD or PTSI or a traumatic, repetition. Mm-hmm. There's a shortness of you're short-tempered. You develop medical problems, which means you're going to call out sick more often. Cops just don't understand the concept, because a shift commander can say, look, I know we're supposed to have 10 zones filled tonight, but there's only 7. One guy's sick, one's on vacation, one's going to a training class. We'll make do. We'll just cross our fingers and hope it's not a full moon. But you can't do that in a 911 center. Somebody's got to have their butt in that seat. Right. And I think it's a miseducation amongst the administration. Like, I don't want anyone to think that I'm anti-administration or because we have made some great strides in that area.
Absolutely.
But I firmly believe that there's not enough education on their part. Like they're not going out and learning, or they're not being told, hey, this is the issue, because oftentimes it's just like a conversation on the radio. The dispatcher says, go to your call, and the cop says, no, I'm not going. And then the dispatcher just finds somebody else to go. I mean, it's just kind of like that one-upmanship almost. And a law enforcement agency is run by law enforcement officers, not by communications people. And that's an issue. And so if we're not going to deal with the trauma, you're not going to fix the root cause, and you're not going to keep people in the door, and you're not going to be able to develop mentor programs or show the value of having a comfort dog walking around, or a dark space for people to decompress, or, some of these things that just need to be addressed. And then we can, or in companion with attacking the bigger issue like reclassification. I think it really has to start with each and every operator, supervisor, manager, and police administrator.
I just want to add real quick to kind of add to what Drew's saying, is that we don't want to be beating up on the administrators and whatnot. If you look at the most recent active shooter events and some other recent well-known events, I see a trend in a better direction as far as administrators go. Because if you look at the Tulsa, Oklahoma, the hospital shooting, the chief of police's first statements was, man, my 911 center did a fantastic job. And then my officers did a fantastic job. And then with the unfortunate event of Speaker Pelosi's husband and that open 911 line, and the operator listening, and the Speaker of the House husband was trying to say things without actually saying them, and she queued up on that and picked up on that and sent the appropriate response. And then the chief of police actually invited that dispatcher to his press conference. I mean, 5 years ago, I would have fallen out of my chair.
Yeah.
10 minutes ago, I would have, just kind of, wobbled. But here we are, the chief has her there to explain what happened and to highlight her work. And so, again, this is working, man. It's great. So, and my own chief, again, very supportive of my efforts and of what I've been doing recently. So the trend is moving forward in the right direction.
That's for sure. The trend is definitely moving. Again, evolution. Everything is evolving, and it's awesome. And so we've got an update here as we go into the wrap up of this. It's been an excellent round. Again, thank you all for being here, and all of you who are watching and listening, whether it's right now live or on the replay once we go off air here. But James sent me something recently, and I was reading it, and my response to him was like the big eyeballs popping emoji. And then a holy shit. And because I hadn't heard this or anything, and James has been following a lot of what's been going on with this. So from Congresswoman Norma Torres's website, a press release that was put out on the 23rd, and I'm just going to read some of the pieces here, but there's one very important one at the end that I want to focus on. So it says, Rep. Torres celebrates Inland Empire victories in 2023 government funding bill. Now you got me doing it, dude. We're in my throat as well. And so this is out of DC, and it says Congresswoman Norma Torres, a member of the U.S. Senate Appropriations Committee, today voted to pass the Consolidated Appropriations Act 2023, a package of 12 government funding bills focused on helping families and communities across the United States. Congresswoman Torres used her position on the powerful committee to help shape the priorities included in the package, which will fund the government for 2023, lower the cost of living for hardworking people, create good paying jobs, and help communities and families in need. So she goes on talking about some of her experience and everything. And what this ends up covering is it makes historic investments in childcare, promotes affordable transportation and housing, reforms how the military justice system handles cold cases, helps students afford basic needs, cracks down on sexual misconduct in the judiciary, also supports democracy and anti-corruption efforts abroad. And then this part here at the end, it says, and I'm going to copy this and I'm going to post it in the comments. What it says here on the bottom is AIDS 911 operators. So it says directs the Office of Management and Budget to reclassify public safety telecommunicators by the end of 23, and the National Telecommunications and Information Administration to develop a plan for a competitive grant program to provide 911 call centers and agencies with resources to help 911 professionals address critical training needs. So
there you go.
there it is right there. And so we've got this information. Again, it's public. It's on her website. And James again had sent this to me. I was like, for real? Like, is that for real? Like it went through. So then, James is trying to get a hold of his contacts. I'm trying to go through my contacts to get a hold of them. Everyone is basically on vacation. So we were trying to get some sort of confirmation to see if this is what it means, but I mean, it's written right there. So take it as you will. Again, we don't have full confirmation, but it is in this press release here on how, part of this.
I will say, I'll say that I don't think office of a member of the House of Representatives would put out a press release if it wasn't, reviewed and accurate. So, and all those other things that are mentioned, I've been able to find. But these bills are so big. And what I was promoting was the fact that the House had passed the 911 Saves Act inside the National Defense Authorization Act back in July. So I was really trying to push the work on the Senate, because there was a similar bill in the Senate, and I was working and hoping that if both houses had, or if the Senate would add it to that as well, then it would get through. But somewhere in this process that I'm not aware of, I believe, and this is pure speculation on my part, that as a member of the Appropriations Committee in the House, Congresswoman Norma Torres must have saw an opportunity in the civilian part of this budget and the appropriations, that she was able to get this language through and attached to the Appropriations Act of 2023. So if I'm reading it correctly, between now and the end of the fiscal year 2023, Office of Management and Budget will reclassify us as a protective service occupation.
Damn.
and I'd like to add that the White House put a picture of President Biden behind the Resolute desk with a stack, up to his shoulder worth of bills that he was signing into law. And somewhere in that stack, I believe, is the bill she's referring to, and that and those items that she's mentioned.
That is awesome. So I just shared the link to this press release in the comments here, so that everybody else can take a look at it and share it up. If we hear anything different, of course, that'll end up going out there. But this is there, and
as far as I know, it should be good.
Yeah. Yeah. So this is excellent. And again, when you shared it with me and I finally got a chance to read it, I was just, my jaw was dropped. I was like, hell no, for real?
I mean, I've said it, there's different tools in the legislative process, and I don't care which tool gets used as long as it works. So, and again, it's all pure speculation from my part, but I believe that, I think either between her staff and herself, I think an opportunity arose, and I believe she took it. And here you go. Again, there's lots of bills that were passed on the 23rd and signed into the law later that evening. So
awesome. Well, there you have it. There's the update. This has been round 36 of the Dispatchers Roundtable. I want to thank our panelists for being on. But before we go off, I just want to get some some closing thoughts here from each one of you. So Barry, let's go ahead and start with you.
I guess I'll start with as we look forward to a new year, we look forward to potentially what is a significant milestone and victory in the recognition of telecommunicators. But in saying that, I wouldn't spend a lot of time over the champagne. We've got a lot of issues that lay ahead of us. And as long as there's a 911 call, somebody's going to have to answer it. Somebody who is recognized, trained, and paid properly. Uh, and that's the future. Like I said earlier, there's no next generation of 911 without the next generation of 911 professionals. So again, gentlemen, thank you for all your work in this area. And, let's start making plans for the next step.
Perfect. What about you, Drew?
To the telecommunicators out there, I just want to say that I see you, I hear you, and any platform I have, you are more than welcome to come speak or get your message out, and I will amplify in any way, shape, or form that I can. I think it's been long overdue, and just as someone. When I was running a comm center, I had all the empathy, sympathy and empathy at the same time. But, I was enduring, I was kind of absorbing everybody's trauma, and it just made me wonder, what have I been doing for the past 25 years, not recognizing, this being the issue. And in the profession itself, 911, the telecommunicators need to remember also that 988 is available to you if you're feeling like self-harm, or if you need somebody to talk to. But I'm on the Failure to Stop podcast network. I'm going to be starting in 2023 a show called The Comm Center with Drew Breasy, and it's about and for dispatchers. It's to get to kind of build the bridge in the gap between law enforcement and or first responders and the dispatchers, the true first responders. I'm not trying to shamelessly plug here, but I want your voices to be heard, and I want your voices have to be present to be heard. So, let's do this all together. I'm in it to win it for you.
Perfect. And then Barry, how can people get a hold of you as well?
Right now, my website's getting reconstructed, but that's typically Barry Furey, BARRYFUREY.com, or you can get a hold of me at Barry Furey at yahoo.com. Both pretty straightforward ways to reach me. And I'm happy to hear from anybody with thoughts, suggestions, comments, complaints. And again, I will definitely echo what Drew said. This time of year is especially difficult for everybody in public safety. So please, above all else, you can't take care of anybody unless you take care of yourself.
Excellent. Yes, very well said. And Drew as well, social media wise, how can people get a hold of you?
Drew at Drew_Breasy, BREASY on Instagram. That's kind of where I hang out the most. I have a YouTube channel called Drew Breasy, but I'm going to be doing most of my content for Failure to Stop. So Failure to Stop also has a YouTube channel and a podcast. We do 4 different podcasts during a week.
Awesome. And then James, if anybody ever has any questions or anything about your mission, the stuff that you're doing, and just you in general, man, how do they get a hold of you?
All right. Well, the Dispatchers is part of First Responders Facebook page. You can get a hold of me at James Lockerbie 936@gmail.com, and also either the APCO or NENA built inside, like it's like their Facebook programs, PS Connect, and then the NENA chat room. I forget what it's called. My apologies, Nina. but no, I just think this is awesome, and I thank Drew and Barry for coming on, and Ricardo, thank you for having the 3 of us. It's kind of a sharing of or encouragement of the states, if you haven't done it yet at the state level, to keep working at the state level, and a celebration that hopefully that the federal level, it's actually going to happen in the beginning of the new year.
Awesome. Excellent. Well, this has been an awesome round. Again, thank you, all three of you, for being here, but especially all of those who have been watching and listening and supporting. Thank you so very much. I will be right back here with the three of you in just one moment. And for those who are watching and listening, if you have any comments, questions, or you want to be a guest on the show, you can email us, and that's going to be wttpodcast@gmail.com. Once again, that is wttpodcast@gmail.com. You can follow us on Twitter, and that is @91podcast. You can like us on Facebook. That is facebook.com/Within the Trenches Podcast. This has been sponsored by InDigital as well as Carbine, and a shout out to patrons and Facebook subscribers. If you want to become a patron of the podcast and help support us, you can check us out, and that is going to be patreon.com/WTT Podcast. On Facebook, you can just go to facebook.com/WTT Podcast, and there's a button there that you can click on to subscribe, and please do. There's a lot of awesome content that is coming up, so thank you all very much for all of that. I appreciate it more than you know. This can be seen on Facebook, YouTube, as well as Twitter, and then for the flagship show Within the Trenches Podcast, you can listen 24/7 on Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Spotify, your favorite podcasting app, and withinthetrenches.net. Have a good one, everyone, and we will see you in the next one.